Well, first of all, thank you very much indeed for being with us. It's a great pleasure and a privilege to be able to speak to you. Before we start talking about some of the detail, I think it would be useful if you could just explain a little bit about the history of Hire and how Hire started and how they've got to where they are today.
I'm very delighted to have this chance to have this meeting with you. So the company of Hire was founded back in 1984. Its predecessor was a very small-scale home appliance factory in the city of Qingdao. Our founder, Mr. Zhang Ruimin himself, came to the company in the year of 1984, and then he introduced the technology from the German company of Lieberherr, and that basically started our journey of entrepreneurship and the development of the company. So as you can calculate, it has been 35 years since Hire was founded back in 1984. So previously, we were solely a refrigerator manufacturer. And then since 1991, we started making other appliances, including washing machine, water heater, air conditioner, even TV, covering all different areas of the appliance business. And in that process, we tried to replicate our model and our culture by acquiring many different businesses in the sector so as to become a diversified and comprehensive appliance manufacturer. And that way, we end up becoming the #1 appliance maker in the country.
You've now created a very different platform, sort of a pioneering new model for a new age, as you say, the Internet of Things age. Can you explain why you think it's necessary to change the business model for the IoT age?
Right. Yes, I think the reason is that in this currently Internet age and upcoming IoT era, the demand from the consumers or from users have been evolving all the time. They're changing and they become increasingly more personalized, individualized. Therefore, it's becoming increasingly more difficult, challenging for any business to satisfy those individualized demands. Therefore, we have to transform of our organization to adapt to those new demands from the users, to making sure that every employee of us can be connected directly to the market, to the users, to respond to users' evolving and fast-changing needs all the time, so that we can iterate our product and service to satisfy those needs. On the other hand, when our company is getting bigger and bigger, inevitably we might suffer from the typical disease of big business when we have a lot of bureaucracy. Therefore, we need to transform our organization into many different micro-enterprises so that we have the agility of the small business. But when we have so many micro-enterprises, how can we maintain that all enterprises can move in a similar direction? That's why we have this platform, which can, on the one hand, has still the scale of economy. On the other hand, it can coordinate among different enterprises, micro-enterprises, so that all this EMEA can move forward in similar direction. That is why we have this 人单合一 model, which plays this role of coordinating among different micro-enterprises to move forward. So that way, on one hand, we do have the benefit of the agility of small business. On the other hand, we have the big scale of economy of a big business. That is our platform, and that's how we making these changes.
And how difficult was it when you were sitting around the boardroom table with a very successful business saying, we need to fundamentally change the way in which we manage and organise the business? Was that a very difficult decision to make? Or when you looked in the future, was that a decision that was an easy one to make?
Right. Well, I think it was mainly thanks to the resolve and determination of our chairman, Mr. Zhang Ruimin himself. He was insisted upon such changes. Well, indeed, in the decision-making process, there were different opinions in the boardroom. Many people were concerned that such drastic changes might result in some instability or volatility in this business. And in fact, when we were trying to do this network transformation, making the company more flatter, we had to remove more than 10,000 middle-level managers. That obviously result in people's dissatisfaction, and a lot of different voices were expressed for such big changes. But again, our chairman was quite insistent upon such reform, and we as the team have been supportive of his decision. So after maybe 1 or 2 years of transformation, I think on the whole, the workforce of Haier have embraced that changes, and because we have a very excellent corporate culture within the organization. So despite those different voices, on the whole, I think eventually we got the support of the employee and the team within the management, and we have moved forward along the line of such transformation. And so far, it looks like this transition has been turning rather well. Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit more now about the whole sort of concept of Rendan He? I suppose, roughly translated, sort of the unity of the employee and user value. And maybe better explain now to talk more about sort of as you say, the community of micro enterprises. So maybe you could help us understand a little bit more about how that works, both at the experience level and also at the supportive level.
For 人人合一, the literal translation is, as you said just now, the 人 means employee. Then literal translation is order. Here we use that to refer to user value. Okay, so every employee can only have value when he or she can create value for the users. So that is the kind of literal translation. But to give you some examples to illustrate this idea, for example, for any people in the R&D department, previously their job was to do some research and development of a particular product. When the product was developed, then their job was done, and they got paid according to whatever mechanism of compensation. But now in our 人人合一 model, they will only get paid if the product they have designed or developed turn out to be popular, or at least available in the market and get purchased by some users. That is the test, right? If they have developed a product, but the product is not welcomed by the consumer in the market, and no one actually will pay for the product, then not only will they not be compensated at all, they might have to be held liable for the investment that goes into the development of that product. Okay, they should be totally accountable for this product, as a research employee, unlike previous organization. Another example is, let's say, a person in the sales team who are doing the sales. Previously, you might know that in any organization, the expenses for business trips have been a very big dilemma for all companies. For example, if you have no particular standards or guidance for such expenses, then the salespeople will, spend a lot of money on such business trips, leading a very luxurious lifestyle. But if you have too much constraint on their budget, then they will have no incentive of going on business, and they will not work very hard to generate big sales revenue. So it has been a dilemma for many companies. So the way we do it is to apply the 人人合一 model, which means we'll set some marketing goals for them, and then all the expenses will be owned by those salespersons themselves. Okay, so they will be their own cost. If they save on the business trips, then they will get the profit out of those sales as their own money, right? So they will have to conduct those cost-benefit analysis for such business trip expenses. So that way, we don't need any approval process, but eventually we can save a lot of unnecessary business or travel expenditures. The same logic goes to all employees, even the people working in the financial department. Previously, they just did some accounting and then get paid. But now they have to create value for people working on the front line. Otherwise, they will not get paid. So everyone has a clientele in the sense they have to serve someone before they get compensated. Yeah.
It sounds like you're transforming all your employees into entrepreneurs.
I think
is that a difficult thing to change an organization's mindset like that?
Right, that's a very good question. In fact, we've been asked this question many times as to how can you transform all their employees into entrepreneurs. Indeed, that is our goal, to transform every employee into an entrepreneur, or in our words, a maker. But it's possible that for some employees, not become entrepreneur because it's not consistent with their nature. They're just not fit to be an entrepreneur. But the way we solve this problem is to open up the boundary of the company, of the business. We are a boundaryless business in the sense that we have this saying that the whole world is our HR department. Okay, so we will transform our company into a platform for the true entrepreneurs. So with the 人单合一 model, we're able to attract the best entrepreneurs to join our platform to start their own business, and we can provide the resources to facilitate their entrepreneurship. Because on our platform, with our resources, with our mechanism, it's much easier for them to be successful. The likelihood and probability for such startup is much higher than just average startup on the grassroots level. So that way we can optimize the process so that we are able to transform everyone being hired into entrepreneurs.
So let's look at the implications for the brand in all this transformation. I suppose you could say, first of all, we had product brands, and then we moved to services brands, and then now I suppose is the age of the platform brand, and now you're creating the ecosystem brand. So what impact does that have within the organisation and on the hire brand itself?
For a traditional product brand, its focus is to provide high quality, or build and provide high quality products. Service brand too, provide high quality service. For the platform, it's all about traffic. We want to attract more traffic and then monetize those traffic. But for us at Hire, we want to build this ecosystem brand. The idea is to create more ecosystem value, including the value for the users and for the stakeholders, so that everyone can benefit. So we get a more added value so that we can share among all stakeholders and with more users. And that way we can evolve altogether. That is what we're trying to do, and we believe this ecosystem brand idea is helpful to our business and conducive to our transformation.
Right. Under 人单合一 and creating this new ecosystem, you also, I presume, need to find different and new ways of measuring things. Performance, success. What new measures have you come up with in order to do this?
Indeed, we do have some innovative measurements because traditionally we simply look at the revenue or profits or maybe ROE or even market share. But we believe that in this ecosystem era, we want to measure the ecosystem value of a business because we want to create more added value that can be shared among all participants of the ecosystem, among all the stakeholders and the users. And we want to create lifelong users, not just one-time transaction consumers, so that they can also share our ecosystem values. Therefore, the way we measure this whole system is innovative, that we try to use a new metric called ecosystem return ratio, which with which we use to measure the ecosystem value we can generate to all partners. So other than that ecosystem return rate, we also have something novel in our system, which is also different from traditional financial accounting indicators. We know traditionally in the macroeconomy we have this monetary multiplier for the macroeconomy, but we have this new idea called the user multiplier, with which we can measure the number of interactive users you have, and the number of lifelong users you have as a yardstick to measure how successful your ecosystem is.
In an ecosystem world, it's the ecosystem working within itself that makes the decisions. Again, from a movement from a more command and control business to an ecosystem business, how difficult has that been, or easy has it been for you as a management team not to be making all the decisions in the business?
I think that decision was made because, again, we need to adapt to the changing times and adapt to the new development of our business, our company. I believe the decision was made after the relevant decision maker conduct very careful, thorough analysis and deliberation among themselves. So that thinking process was indeed very complex and sophisticated. But the decision itself was made in a rather resolute manner, very prompt manner, after long time thinking. Yeah.
You've had a very impressive performance in the BrandZ Most Valuable Chinese Brands for 2019 and also the BrandZ Top 100 Most Valuable Global Brands for 2019. A very impressive value performance and increasing your number in terms of the rankings. What differentiated advantages do you think Haier has now achieved in the market?
Well, I think this high ranking performance of Haier has been attributable to many factors. Well, to start with, that Haier has always been attaching great importance to branding from the very beginning. We always take branding very seriously. And I think for this year, indeed, we have made lots of headway, especially when we have this new idea of eco-brand or ecosystem brand. Because when we create this ecosystem, we're able to create greater shared value with the users and with our stakeholders, as I mentioned many times. And also, I think last year, guided by this philosophy, I think we were able to achieve a very healthy growth in other parts of the world, in other markets. I think all these factors jointly has resulted in a pretty strong performance of our ranking in your brand ranking. And I think on the whole, the ecosystem is a very big or broad system. So the way we are trying to build this ecosystem brand is that we really want to create more values for the users. And to do that, we really need to attract all the best stakeholders across the world to join our platform. So that way, on one hand, we can keep building our brand to an even stronger position. On the other hand, by joining our platform, our partners' brand can also be solidified, can also be strengthened. So that way, it's also a win-win process. And our consumers, our users, will also benefit from those partnerships.
You said that Haier started with refrigerators and then to washing machines. There's been a great transition over the years, which is immensely impressive. What business would you now say Haier is in?
I think Haier currently is no longer a home appliance manufacturer. We rather say we're a solution provider of smart home solution. We're a provider of smart home solution. We don't just provide hardwares. Rather, we provide lifestyles. We provide solutions. We hope that we can continue providing such a solution for better life or more beautiful life for consumers across the whole globe.
We've been hearing for a number of years that the IoT world is just a few moments away. Do you now feel that all the elements are in place for the IoT world really to start to have an impact in our lives as consumers very quickly?
I think the idea of IoT was first proposed back in 1999. It has been 20 years. According to the experts, forecast and analysis, so this year, again, 2019, should be the year for IoT to truly catch on, to become the big thing of this year. Well, I personally believe the era of IoT is moving to us closer and closer, and it should be around the corner. In fact, the person who proposed the idea of IoT, Professor Ashton, once visited the company of Haier, once visited us, and having seen everything we've been doing, he believed we're the one company which is closest to the IoT era. And we believe it's quite soon. It should happen anytime. And if it happens, it should definitely revolve around the smart home solution because that's most relevant to IoT. And fortunately, we have done lots of preparation in providing the relevant solutions and both hardware and software in this smart home solution. And we hope we'll be the one company which plays a leading role in the IoT era.
And finally, when you look to the future, what's next for Hire?
从3个方面来看，我们希望呢这个。
Three things for next steps of Hire. Well, firstly, we hope that the brand of Hire will become even more global in the hearts and mind of global consumers. The mere mention of the brand of Hire can create value for the consumers in the world. Well, secondly, I hope that the organization of Hire company will become more ecosystem-centric, ecosystem-based, because we're so big, and it will be a nice thing for such a big organization to become a self-organized entity and self-evolving, thus into an ecosystem all the time. Well, thirdly, we hope that this model of 人单合一 will make its due contribution to the business community in the whole world, facilitating their transformation and growth.
Well, Mr. Zhou, thank you very much indeed for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much indeed.
谢谢啊，非常荣幸今天有机会。
Well, thank you so much. I'm very privileged to have this conversation with you. I hope you can keep watching Hire and to provide your support Hire, and you're welcome to visit Hire anytime you want.
Thank you, 谢谢。
谢谢。